All right, well, welcome back, everyone. We are getting ready to start our fourth and final live clinic of the evening. Batting cleanup for us. Our featured speaker began his coaching career in 1990 as an assistant at his alma mater, Albany University. After 5 seasons at Albany, he went to Yale for 2 seasons and then to Ohio University for 2 seasons. In 1999, he returned to Yale for his first head coaching position, and he has led the Bulldogs for the last 26 years. With 418 career wins, his teams of late have been as consistent as anyone in college basketball by playing in the postseason each of the last 5 seasons they've competed. Please join me in welcoming Coach James Jones of Yale. Coach, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Troy. Good to be on with you guys.
So we before we started this, you were watching the Yankees.
I thought we weren't going to bring that up.
Well, I have to. They eliminated my Royals last year, so I have to bring it up whenever I can.
Gotcha. Well, like I told you before, I'm not going to talk much about them because I don't want to use any profanity.
Coach, when was it that you came to the conclusion that you wanted to get into coaching?
Well, I was, very lucky to get into coaching. I was selling computer products for NCR for 5 years when I graduated college, and I was dating this young lady that looked like Whitney Houston, and everywhere we went, everybody wanted to know why she was with me. And I ended up going to Travis Racetrack, and I ended up running into assistant women's coach of my alma mater, and she told me about the job that was opening for Doc Sowers, who I played for. And I had grown tired of selling at the time, and I was gonna, get an MBA and go work on Wall Street after a couple of years of coaching. And my first year, I coached a JV team. I was the head JV coach, assistant varsity, and I got snake bit at that time. My team was 17-3, and I thought coaching was easy. I didn't realize it was because I had better players than everybody. That's why we were 17-3. But at that point, I realized that this is what I was meant to do. And as I look back upon my career and as a player and as a coach, I never got to the point as a player that I wanted to. I think I knew what was necessary to be really good, but I wasn't willing to do the work that was required. And I think it's my job now is to try to motivate young men to do what I couldn't do on my own.
Gotcha. Tom?
Coach, how many practices have you had? 5?
No, no. So we're a little different in Ivy League. We've had our first practice was today. We had a couple of workouts leading to full team workouts leading into it, but today was our first full work practice. We went for about 2.5 hours today. It was spirited, as you can imagine, exciting, and the kids are chomping at the bit, ready to go. It wasn't great. Had a lot of turnovers in practice, but it was good nonetheless.
First drill. What's the first drill you run?
Yeah, I always start with rebounding. I think that that's key for us. I want to set the tone, putting bodies on bodies. So we do some dummy boxing out, and then we go right into a rebounding drill. And it's a hard one where, it's two guys against everybody else on the team, and they're going to go against two guys at a time, and they got to get three defensive rebounds in a row to get out. So sometimes, depending on which freshman's which guy, you might be in there for a while. And the drill takes a bit, and it gets a little tough. And I had one kid break his nose a couple of years ago on the first drill, and those are the things that happen. But that's the best way for me to start practice.
Could you kind of walk people through like one of your practices? And what I mean by that is if 100% of your practice, 25% is skill development, how much is offense, how much is defense, and maybe how much of it is all in one drills where it's offense and defense and you're coaching both things. Could you walk us through maybe your percentages?
Well, obviously it's going to be different to start the year as it will be when we get in the middle of the season. So if we look at our practice that we had today, a lot of it is all fundamental stuff that we want to work on, the stuff that matters, how to catch and pivot, how to move, how to pass, how to block out, which way to turn on a rebound. So we do a lot of stuff that it's a lot of fundamental stuff that we work on early on. And, we did a little skill work with some motion work where we're doing 2-on-0 and 3-on-0. But for the most part, early on in the season, we're just really doing a lot of fundamentals and trying to nail that stuff down and try to bring the young guys up to speed in terms of what we're doing. We have 5 new guys. We have 4 players that we recruited, 1 kid that's a walk-on, and we're trying to bring those guys up to speed. And, like I think the 4 freshmen that we have are really talented. The thing that separates them is strength level at certain times, but the biggest thing is really the know-how. When I go 3-on-4 scramble, they don't know what that is, but all the other guys do. So the other guys don't have to think, they just have to play. All the freshmen, they have to think about what it is that they're doing. That takes away from their ability to be good at times.
Leads right into my next question on leadership. You have some returners, but how do you pick, or how did the leaders of your team kind of rise to the top, or are selected, or how does it all happen?
Well, Yale is it's kind of special that way. I don't know if necessarily I agree with it all the time, but there's one captain for each team every year for each sport at Yale, and you're selected by your classmates. The coaches have nothing to do with it, and I'm happy about that because it's just one guy. I wouldn't want to be the guy that determines that. In any event, the players choose, and this year our captain is named Nick Townsend, and we've been very fortunate to have some really good players and really good leaders. But one of the things that I do is I take all the kids out to lunch that are in the senior class because those are the kids that are eligible to be your captains. And I talk to them about that no one man can lead this team. It has to be a team effort. So all our upperclassmen, our seniors and our juniors, but primarily our seniors are one that lead our team. And I've given them a voice to make decisions on things that we do. And we want to make sure that the younger guys look up to our older players. So when we go to eat on the road, the seniors always eat first. They sit on the bus where they want to sit on the bus. So you want to become a senior so you can have some of those advantages that go on throughout the year. And again, I think that's something that's really important to try to help build that leadership and have the younger guys want to be part of that when they get older.
I'm sitting here looking at your record and and how long you've done it. And I don't mean that how long you've done it. I mean how well you've done it for quite a while. What are the pillars? What are the non-negotiables? What are the things that have kind of put you in this position to kind of just roll through? I mean, great success.
Well, we built a culture, Tom, is basically what it is. You're doing a really good job as a coach when your upperclassmen are repeating what you say and they're trying to teach the younger guys. Every team is best when it's player led, and we give our guys a huge voice and we make sure that they feel vested. I think that's the best thing that we do as a staff is that we allow our guys to feel really good about who they are and allow them to have a voice. And then when they have a voice, they feel vested in what they're doing. They're a bigger part of it. So even the guys that don't play, they still have a voice in terms of what we do and how we do. And that's a big difference for us. And, we have a belief at Yale that we're going to be successful and that we're going to win. I think that's the biggest thing that you have. When I first got in the league 100 years ago, Penn and Princeton were dominating the league. And there were teams that I coached that would go on, and I don't know if they really truly believe deep down that they can win a game, and it's hard to achieve unless you believe. And now, I know by some games that we play, teams don't believe they can beat us, and then you're already won. It's kind of like with Mike Tyson. Before Mike Tyson got knocked out by Buster Douglas, dudes were done before they even walked in the ring. They were just trying to survive it. They were just trying to come out and not have my nose on the other side of my face for Mighty Mike. So until he got knocked down and proved that he was human, that's the way he dominated. He won before he got in the ring, and I think our culture has been built that way, and it's provided us with an opportunity to win a lot of games because of our belief systems and how other people perceive how we're going to be.
You've been a great ambassador for the NABC and Coaches versus Cancer. But when you go to all these clinics and you speak, and I always commend you for making it always fit, like tonight, making it fit into your schedule. But how in your program, the offensive end, the defensive end, are you pretty much this is the way we're going to play, or is it deviate, it fluctuates, it's flexible? How do you kind of do or put your program together offensively and defensively?
Well, listen, you guys have asked me to do a lot of things over the years, and I do them all because you guys are good people. And I don't say that because I'm talking to you right now. It's because you are. And you guys do God's work. You guys are real serious about what you're doing. You're just trying to help other people. So anytime I can lend a hand, I'm going to try to lend a hand. In terms of our team and where was I? You were asked, what was the second part of that,
Just
Tom?
how about flexibility?
Yeah,
How do
I'm
you pick
sorry.
your offensive system and defense?
Yeah. So we're real flexible in what we do. We have a framework of our offense, but it's interesting. I was talking to my assistant coach out the practice today, Matt Kingsley, who's my associate head coach actually, and we were talking about our team, and I said to him, I see a path where we're going to be where we can be successful this year. And we had a really good team last year. John Poulikitis, who's with the LA Clippers right now, he's going to get an opportunity to play in some preseason games. And we had Bez Mbang, who was the defensive player of the year and also the player of the year in the league. And he's with the Miami Heat. And, you kind of knew what was going to happen with those two guys on a team, but we're still going to have the framework of our offense. And we just have a lot more shots to go around, and we will play to the strengths of our team and the personnel. They're going to dictate to me what we do. They're going to tell me by virtue of how we practice and how they play in practice, who's going to take the most shots and how we're going to get that person the most shots. So, right now we're in the infancy stages of our season. I'm dealing with a lot of combinations of guys, throwing them out there to see what we can do. We have we have 29 more practices before our first game, and by that time, I hope to have a good idea of where we're going to be and how we're going to play. But again, it varies from year to year, and sometimes from beginning the season to end of the season how we play and what we emphasize. But we have a basic framework, and then we just kind of morph it in terms of who our personnel is.
I'm going to turn it over to Troy in a second. I got one last question, and then he can come back. But you grow up, you got a brother, and you're both head men's basketball coaches at the Division I level. I mean, how did that happen? I mean, honestly, it's amazing. Your parents got to be, and your family. I mean, unbelievably proud. But how did it happen?
Well, again, I look at myself and I think that I'm one of the luckiest people on the planet. I didn't set out, I wasn't a sophomore in college thinking I wanted to get into coaching. As I said, I kind of lucked into it. I went to a Travelers horse race and I ran into someone who told me about an opening and I got into it. But part of that was because my brother Joe was coaching in ninth grade at the time when I was working for a computer company. He was a guidance counselor and he was working at night for this guy, Frank Romeo, down at Comstock High School. And he, eighth and ninth graders he had. And I would go down on weekends from Connecticut and help him out with his team. And, I kind of miss basketball. I mean, it's always been a part of who we are. And, I used to think of myself I always thought of myself as a basketball player. I wasn't as good as I wanted to be, but that's how I thought of myself. And I think Joe has been the same way. And Jay Wright gave Joe his first opportunity to start coaching the Hofstra with him, and he kind of grew from there. And we have these voices that I'd say all the time that you have this inner voice as an assistant coach that starts yelling at you that it's time to become a head coach. And my voice was like yelling at me, and I knew I was ready when I was an assistant at Ohio University, and I was suggesting things to Coach Hunter, and he was using my suggestions. Well, if my suggestions are good enough to do it, why what not? So that gave me a great deal of confidence. And I suspect the same thing happened for Joe as well. And we've been very fortunate to have these opportunities. And he was at Columbia, his first head coaching job when I was coaching here at Yale, and we had a lot of head to heads, and it was great for my family, and it was good for us to hang out. And I'll tell you a great story. One of the first games, the second game that we played, first game was at Yale, and we won. And people were coming out of woodwork for that game, and television stations, newspapers, Sports Illustrated, everybody was for it. So now the second game, Joe's team stinks. They're terrible, right? They're like 8-97 or whatever it was that year. And we go to the game. It's the last game of the season, and this is this is awesome. You'll love this. They had this group of kids they called Jews for Jones, and they were like this cheering section for Joe Jones. It was, and the place was sold out. It was sold. They stink, and it's sold out. I don't know how they did it. I don't know if he grabbed people. Joe has this illuminating, wonderful, big personality. And if you ever meet anybody that knows him and goes, "You're Joe Jones's brother," they get all excited. So they have this wonderful gym. It's packed, and they have this kid named Kravic. I think he was Croatian, and he buried 7 threes on us. And they won in double overtime or single overtime. And every time Kravic hit a three, Joe would raise his arms up and like go to the crowd and go crazy. And I swear to God, I felt like running down there and tackling him. I swear, like if I wasn't going to get a technical, I would have ran down there and tackled him. But he's a great coach, does a great job with his players at motivating and trying to get the most out of them. And again, we're just two lucky men and happen to be in the same family. And it's great because I'll go recruiting someplace, and Joe and I talk every day, but we don't, we're men, so we're not going to tell each other where our schedules are and all that kind of stuff. So we talk about whatever we're going to talk about, and then all of a sudden I go into a gym and there he is. And that's just a great thing to be able to sit next to your brother and shoot the crap and talk about whatever while we're watching kids play.
Troy, I'll turn it over to you. And I got some other questions on team building. So go ahead.
You talked a little bit earlier about the senior leadership on your team. Kind of, how do you go about developing those guys so when it is their turn, they're prepared to be leaders?
Yeah, I think that we start grooming them as they get older. Like I make it a point to talk to my guys. Hey, you're a sophomore now. You got to start talking a little bit more. You got to use your
Mm.
voice. You're not a freshman anymore. You're an upperclassman. So we start getting these guys to think about it, and they take ownership. I think that I'm fortunate to have a group of guys that take ownership of that and the importance of it. You ask kids questions and they know the answers. If you talk about, if we are going to communicate defensively and I'm going to call ball or I'm going to say, I got a rebound or I got a block out, whatever it is, and your teammates hear you and that helps us win, why wouldn't we do that? That just helps you. So using your voice and using that leadership, that's just a part of leadership. You want to be somebody that's going to be an energy giver, not an energy taker. So we make sure that we point things like that out to the guys on our team as they move on and they get older. And as I said, we give the guys that are seniors a little bit more leeway. They get a little bit more than other guys. And so now the younger guys we want to become a leader. They want to be in those positions. And I think that's really helped us.
I think recruiting's so tough just in general. When you're out looking at players and when you're not bullshitting with your brother, what key elements are you looking for that you know that'll make a player will fit into you and your system, your
Well,
program?
again, so I'll tell you a couple things. Number one, we want to look for kids with a little snot in their nose, so to speak, some toughness. I think that's the first thing you want to look for. Like if the ball's on the ground, it's loose, you're going to either look at it or you're going to go get it. If you're going to look at it, your team is losing. We don't like to lose. So we're trying to get guys to be the guys that are going to be the first one on the floor. And if you have a team of 13 to 14 players and you have 10 of them that are going to be the ones that are going to dive first, the other four are going to figure it out real quick. But if you have 10 players that won't get on the floor and four of them that will, well, they're most likely going to become guys that don't get on the floor either because it's not something that's important. So we want to breed the toughness by guys that we recruit. So that's the first thing we look for. And then there's the skill level in terms of how guys are, dribble, pass, and shoot. Like we all want skilled players to be able to do the things that are necessary for us to be successful in what we're running offensively. And, I work with USA Basketball every year. I'm on a committee to choose the 19 other national team. And I tell you right now, like I go there every year that we go to Colorado and I get a list of guys. And, I probably know three or four of them that I've seen play before. But for the most part, I don't know the 35 kids on the list. It takes me about 15 minutes to figure out who the 13 guys are going to make the team. It's not hard. Like cream rises. You can tell, like, okay, this guy, I can tell you right now, Tom, like I can watch you walk after doing this for like 35 years and tell you, okay, that kid can play or he can't play. You just get a feel for it. And, after doing this for so many years, I just have a knack of trying to figure out who's the right guy for us. But the first thing is they got to have some toughness. They got to be guys that are willing to do some dirty work because, we have three principles in our program. We want to rebound, we want to defend, and we want to share the ball. Rebound and defending, you can't do without toughness.
Absolutely. Well, the first time I met you, I was sitting with you at an AAU tournament in Kansas City. And I remember you telling me that not very many Ivy League schools recruit the Midwest. That was your secret sauce, is that you still recruit in the Midwest?
Well, we do. There's not a lot of success there. We're trying to find people and now things has changed so much, Tom. Excuse me, Troy, with the transfer portal and with NIL and the financial side of this thing, it's really changed. So this is what I'll tell you. If the last 20 years or so, there have been 8 guys that come into the Ivy League every year that can impact winning. 8 players a year. Right now, there's only about 4 that can really impact winning. So I got to get all 4 of those guys now. If I want to go and have a chance to beat Auburn and Baylor in NCAA tournament, we got to be to the point where we're going to have guys that are that good. The Danny Wolfs of the world, the John Poulikitis of the world, the Bez Mbangs of the world. We got to have guys at that level because those are the guys that we're going to be playing against in the NCAA tournament and hoping to win a game.
Now, I was lucky enough to catch you when you came in town and played Kansas. Was it last year or the year before? I can't remember.
2 years ago.
And when you're setting your schedule and your non-conference portion of your schedule, what are you trying to accomplish to get your team ready for league play?
Well, we want to give guys experiences. College is all about experiences, right? And what you learn from those experiences. So we want to challenge ourselves, number one, and I want to see what warts we have. So if you go out and you play Kansas and Purdue and Alabama and some of these teams that we play non-conference, well, you're going to find out really quick how good you are and what you need to work on. And we've been very fortunate that as you recall, we were beating Kansas at Kansas, but at halftime. And it takes an act of Congress to beat Kansas at Kansas as a non-league game, right? That it's almost impossible to do. You're playing 5-on-8, and they got Bill Self over there. Maybe it's 5-on-9 because of the leeway and how the game's officiated. But we were fortunate to be winning at halftime, and I think we lost the game by, single digits. And so that game told me that if we were to play a team like Kansas in NCAA tournament on a neutral court, we'd have a chance to win. And so be it, we ended up beating Auburn that year. And last year we went to Purdue and we lost by I think 7 or 9 points at Purdue. And I knew we'd have a chance if we were fortunate enough to make the NCAA tournament to be able to win a game. And we ended up losing to Texas A&M by 9 points. And hats off to them, but we just didn't play well in that game. They had something to do with it, but we just didn't play well in that game.
When you play those games in the preseason or the non-conference schedule, do you like after you've played Kansas, do you know that early if this team's got it, or do you know, or do you think, well, if we continue to progress, we might be able to get there?
Well, again, so we were good enough to be in that stage that earlier part of the season. So I felt good about it. Now sometimes, you need to improve and get better, but we were already there. I knew at that point, and we were so good the last couple of years. I mean, again, I got 3 guys that are playing in NBA right now. So we were talented enough to be really good, and then we had great role players, guys that are not in NBA, but they're really good players. Matt Noling, who was a preseason player of the year his senior year at Yale before he transferred to USC as a grad transfer. August Mahoney was all-time leading three-point shooter in the history of Yale basketball. Those guys were on that team with Danny Wolf, Bez Mbang, and John Poulikitis. That's a great starting 5.
You've been in the Ivy League for a long time. Obviously, we've talked about the portal, or you mentioned the portal and the NIL and stuff like that. What other major changes have you seen or in the Ivy League just since you've been there?
The biggest change is in terms of who dominates the league. Like I told you, like when I was an assistant coach, Penn and Princeton, they just beat the pants off everybody. I remember one of my first years, we're playing at home against Penn, and they had Matt Langle and Michael Jordan, obviously a different Michael Jordan, but Michael was the preseason. I mean, he was the player of the year in the league, and they had a center by the name of Jeff Owens. They were beating us by 34 points with 10 minutes and 28 seconds to go in the game. And I remember sitting on a bench seething in anger because we were just getting the pants beat off of. And I remember telling myself that I'm never going to let something like that happen to me again, and it hasn't. But the change in the dominance of the league is, Harvard has had a huge run in the league, and Cornell had a huge run in the league, and we've been successful here over the last 10, 15 years. So it's been one of those things that's been a huge change in how the league has been dictated over the last decade.
So we talked about the playing the schedule in the conference. You've had, the upset victories in the NCAA tournament. Obviously played in the postseason the last 5 years. How has that helped or changed your recruiting to try to find those four impact players that you're talking about?
Yeah, well, people know who we are now, right? And I was given an award at the Coaches versus Cancer dinner in Albany, and here's a great story for you. I go to Madison Square Garden for the Big East tournament 15 years ago. My season's over, right? And I've become a fan, so I want to go watch some college basketball. I bring my 9-year-old son at the time or something like that. And I'm walking to a concession stand. I had a jacket and it had Yale basketball on the back. And some guy goes to me, they play basketball at Yale? And if you know me, like I'm competitive as the day is long, and so that angered me to a great extent. And I was thinking about that story about 2.5, 3 weeks ago. And I said to myself, no one's ever going to say that to me again. They're never going to say, do they play basketball? Yeah, because of the success that we've had, right? You got to be on if you're a college basketball fan, you have to be on the rock not to have seen us at some point. I think anyway, that's me, carrying a chip on my shoulder and thinking better, I'm better than I am. So I'm in the Berkshires and I stop at a CVS and I'm going down a lane to get some contact lens solution or something. And some guy goes to me, and I had something that said Yale, like I have on right now. And guy goes, "They play basketball at Yale?" And I'm like, "Oh no, you didn't do that. You didn't do that to me just again." So I was humbled, and that's one of the great things about life is that you find yourself, you get humbled with who you are. You think you've done something and you haven't yet to enough people. So that just motivates me to try to do the best I can and try to get to the tournament again and win another game.
Tom?
Coach, almost everybody on this, we've got, it went over 1,900, I think, for people that are signed up for this. My question to you is this, could you walk us, because everybody's going to have their first practice coming up. Could you just walk us through your first practice of the year, how you put it all together and what you said your first drill was rebounding. I'll just tell you a story. We did a video one time with Jim Calhoun at Connecticut. Their first drill was a rebounding drill, one-on-one rebounding. And Kimbo Walker was going against some 7'4" guy that went in the NBA. He was in there for like 40, I would say legitimately 30 minutes, and he was dying, and he finally got out of the drill. But they did it until he got out. So I've seen people do it. So could you walk us through your first day of practice?
Yeah, so we've had a couple of workouts leading up to it where we were on the floor for about an hour, hour and a half. And we started a lot of the, you know, things that are important to us. Like we have a communication drill where, guys are in defensive stance and they go up to the middle of the floor, come back to the middle, go to one side, and then have to go to the other side. And everybody's going at the same time. So if you don't talk through it, you're going to run into everybody, you're going to run into each other. So communication is really something I wanted to point out because I looked at this team this year and I don't think that we have guys that are natural talkers, guys that, some guys that you can't shut up, right? Some guys you can't, they're always talking about something somewhere. And I think my guys on this team are pretty quiet. So we wanted to bring that out to them. So we did a communication drill. And then we start with all the fundamentals with our footwork, with defensive slides and understanding, how to guard and your positioning and how to guard. And, then, like I said, we had our rebounding that we do that's a cornerstone of our program. Then we got into that. And then we build it up from 1-on-1 to 2-on-2 to 3-on-3 to 4-on-4 shell. And we talk about we're a gap team and we help in the gaps and we stunt penetration and we move on rotations. Everybody moves without the ball. And at the same time, you're communicating through all that. So that was the basic the premise of our practice, where it's mostly all defense, where we hardly do any offense, where like, they don't get too many shots up on that first day. I want to set the tone for what we are and who we're going to be defensively. Again, three pillars: defend, rebound, and share. We'll get to sharing later, but the main thing is to build that defensive premise in terms of who we are, that defensive foundation of who we are, to let everybody know what their responsibilities are to begin with. And then we start building for that, because there's so many more things you do: your ball screen coverages, what you're going to do, and how you're going to do, and how you're going to rotate differently. But again, it's basically for us, we're building on defense and rebounding.
Implementation of your offensive stuff like set plays, inbounds plays. How do you implement all those things? I mean, is it live? Is it whole part whole? Is it 5-on-0? Do you do some of that? I mean, I hate to be naive, but in the summertime, can you work with your players in the Ivy League?
No, we don't work with our guys at all.
You got a
Uh,
great job, coach.
yeah, so I got a great job. Yeah, so it's great for me because I think that it's almost hurts, I think, some teams that work over the summer, because you can only yell at kids for so many times. Like, if you were to come to my practice, you will hear me yell high hands three 200 times in practice. So every time we have a closeout, because we're a gap team, so closeouts are going to be really important for us. So what teams try to do, they try to bend you so they can break you. If you don't close out well, people are going to attack your closeouts, and that's going to cause rotations, bend and break your defense. So we want to make sure that our defense doesn't bend, it doesn't break. We're directing traffic or directing the ball in a certain direction on our closeout with both hands up high, and we're under control so we don't get beat off the bounce. So that's something that we do, and we make it a point to try to teach and build up in our guys, because if you don't do that well, then your defense is going to break down. It's going to kill you.
I was going to ask you a question of leadership. All right. And you nailed it a little. And when you said, in the last 4 years, 3 years, 9 losses, 10 losses, and eight. All right. But it just didn't happen overnight. I mean, you've put in a lot of, I mean, I can go back and you're 22-8, you're 20. So how do you sustain it? But how do you build it? And how do you get them, since you don't have all that other time, the summer times and all those things of the other schools. But so, and I think, and the reason I'm asking this is a lot of high schools, or I think they look at you as you're a coach.
Yeah.
You're one of them. I mean, I think they can see you and them, how you get great players, good players, and all that. But how do you get them to keep building and keep sustaining the excellence that you have through leadership and culture and things like that? How does it happen?
Yeah, like you said, it doesn't happen overnight. It's a long time in coming. It's piece by piece by piece to how you do it. It's like it's hard to have a culture in this climate because kids go in and out all the time. For us, we didn't lose. I've lost one player in 27 years. So everybody that I've recruited that played for me have come to Yale and played for 4 years and graduated. So we've had, well, like I said, one player leave. So it's the building of that and the building of the belief and what goes on. And kids don't care what you know until they know you care. My AD said that to me. Tom Beckett said that to me years ago. And there's certain things that stick with you, and that's a winner right there, right? Like, they don't care what you know. They have to know you care about them. So making sure that you embrace your kids and that you're there to help them become the best versions of themselves, I think that's where you start with leadership. They have to have a belief in you, because if they don't believe in you and what you're doing, well, then how can you ever lead them anywhere? So I think that every kid on my team knows that I care about them and know that I love them. I tell about kids that I recruit all the time. Listen, if you don't want to have a relationship with a coach, Yale is a bad place to go to school. Now, I'm not hanging out on Friday night with you. We're not gonna go on double dates, but you will come to my house, you will have dinner. I will ask you questions about your girlfriend, your mom, your dad, your parents, your faith. We will have conversations that are something other than basketball because that's important to me. My favorite time of year is the holidays. And I got a couple of guys from Kansas, Troy, and they send me, holiday cards, and I watch their families grow. And that's one of the thrills of my life to watch all the young men that I've coached and what their families are like, and that they're still together, and that they still talk, and that they come to our games, and that they follow us, and all those things. Like that's all part of building what we have at Yale. And I've been here for 27 years. Everybody's connected, and I think that the biggest part of it, Danny Wolf, who played for us, who was he's a 26th in the draft or something like that, playing NBA. He didn't play a lot as a freshman because EJ Jarvis knew what we were doing, and he was a really good player. John Poulikitis didn't play a lot as a freshman because Azar Swain was really good, but not playing a lot as a freshman. All that did for those two young men was make them work harder. They didn't like sitting on a bench watching. They didn't want to do that their sophomore year. So you know what? They put more time in the gym. And here's the deal. If Danny Wolf and John Poulikitis cannot play as a senior, play as a freshman, well, who are you not to play as a freshman? So those are conversations that we have, and that builds it, and they still the belief and confidence in the coaching staff that we're going to put you in a situation where you're going to be successful. I told John Poulikitis that one day, when he was a freshman, that one day you're going to lead our team in scoring, and not only did he lead the league team in scoring, he led the league in scoring. And those are the things that happen. And as you build and as we develop you as a player, and a lot of that development goes to what you have in here and how much you really want it.
Staff development, staff hiring, staff putting it together, expectations, responsibilities. Could you walk us through that? I remember I called you about you had an opening last year, your operations. Was it 2 years ago?
Yeah,
I said, "Hey,
no,
I got a guy for you." And he said, "Tom, with all due respect, I've been in this business for I think I think I know of somebody that
yeah,
but
yeah.
I did appreciate that, the honesty in that. But
Well,
go ahead.
again, Tom, you're my guy, so I gotta speak real with you. But here's the thing. I think that just like your players, you want your coaches to be vested in what goes on. Matt Kingsley's my associate head coach. He's been with me for 20 years, and he's got a lot of leeway in doing a lot of things. I give him so much on his plate because if you think about it, if you've been with James Jones for 20 years, do you really want to listen to me for another year? Do you really want to listen to me again? So he's heard all my little quirks and things that I've said. So I give him a lot of leeway in helping us build our offense and our defense. And a lot of us, what we do is him, and he takes great pride in it. He spends a lot of time working with our players and watching film with them. So giving guys the ability to have a voice. When I was an assistant coach, I didn't have much of a voice. I wasn't allowed to do a lot of things. I didn't like that very much. So sometimes you learn what not to do when you have an opportunity. So first and foremost, I give my guys a voice to have talk and help us and to do some of the good stuff because everybody wants to do the coaching. Everybody wants to X and O. Everybody wants to add stuff to that. So giving our guys an opportunity to do that, well, that helps them make them more vested. So now when the dirty stuff that you have to do comes up, well, they're okay with doing that because I get to do some of the good stuff too. So that builds how you do what you do. Today in practice, we have a new assistant on my staff, Toby Carberry, who was with me a few years back, and we're putting in offense and stuff. And he doesn't know it as well as the other guys do on my staff. So his voice hasn't been as loud in our workouts and also our first practice. So we did a stint today where we had 6 minutes where we had mixed group shooting versus hard hedge. So I said, "Go, Toby, you got that." So for 6 minutes, he can coach the team and he runs it. That helps build who he is and it makes him vested in who we are. So I think, and it was for me, I don't always agree when I do that. And coaches, you'll watch this, you're not always going to agree what your coaches do, And you can like micromanage them. I don't do that. I just say, hey, it's yours. You do what you know. Listen, you know how to work against the hard heads. You go ahead and do it. And I don't always like the stuff they do, but it makes them feel better about who they are. And a 6 minutes segment of practice isn't going to change who we are as a program, but it will change how that coach feels about our program and our staff and where he fits in and how it is that he's going to help us be successful.
One question we had for another coach earlier today was, how do you measure success in the early season? And maybe you just talked about it when you're talking about Kansas when you played them, but how do you measure, sometimes you have a loss, but did that loss make you better? How do you prepare for the end game of the NCAA tournament?
Yeah, yeah. Well, see, the best thing that I like about myself, Tom, is that I don't ever anticipate pain. I don't ever worry about something that's going to happen or might happen. Why should I worry? I said that's not logical to me, right? So I don't think that way. So all I want to do is make sure that we are playing the best that we're capable of playing. And sometimes I remember we played at Princeton one year, and I'm sitting on the bench with Coach Kingsley, and I said to him, I go, you know what? I don't even care if we lose this game. We've played so well and so hard. um, I was satisfied. Now, obviously, I wanted to win, don't get me wrong, but I was going to be okay with it because of the way we played. And you just got to look at your team and be realistic about who you are. Like, you're not going to win every game. It's impossible to win every game. You just can't do it. You're going to win, you're going to lose some games you're not supposed to, and you're going to win some games you're not supposed to. That's just how life is. And you just have to figure out exactly where your team is and if you can get to where you need to get to, and if are you getting the most out of your players, because some days you just miss free throws, right? We're a 75% free throw shooting team, and we shot 61% and we lost the game. That happens. We played San Diego State in the NCAA tournament, and those dudes, they averaged making six threes a game. They made 14 against us, right? It just happens. Like okay, everybody, like it was like that was the game plan. Let them shoot, and they made them all. So those things
I think
happen.
I had a couple of those scouting reports when I was at Drake. Another
Yeah.
team hit it. Hey, I got one more. I'm going to turn over to Troy. We've got about 15 minutes left. My question is this: stats that your team keeps, right? Are there certain categories, maybe it's deflections or whatever, are there certain categories, maybe it's rebounding, that if you're in this area of the plus minus, that you're going to be on the good side or the bad side? Are there any stats that stick out to you in your program?
Yeah, we do something we call kills, where you have to get three stops in a row. And if you can get six kills in a game, you have a great chance on winning. So we chart those. And every time we're doing a game, if we got two stops, we're yelling to our team, this is for a kill, this is for a kill, this is for a kill. And again, just that's part of our defensive principles, trying to get stops. And if you can get six stops, three stops in a row 6 times, you got a really good chance of winning the game.
Troy, I'll turn it over to you for a little bit.
Um, I was just going to ask you, you've been there for 26 years. What's what's the biggest thing do you think that change that you've made in your coaching style from when you started?
Great question, Troy. So I was crazy. How about that? I was out of my mind crazy. Like, we were so bad when I got the job. There were 315 teams in the country. Yale was ranked 313. All right. And I had no buttons on my jackets because I was throwing my jacket off for some reason or another every game. I was pissed off at somebody. And that didn't do anything but make me look stupid, right? It didn't help us win any games. So I'm much calmer. I spike every now and again during the game, but most of the time I'm pretty even kill. We get our work done in practice. And if by the time practice is over and game starts, if I haven't gotten us ready, all the yelling in the world is not going to help us win a game, in my estimation. So what I want to do, and it's hard for me to focus and concentrate if I'm up screaming and yelling. I don't know how I have to make 1,000 decisions through the course of a basketball game. And I don't know how you make those kind of decisions when you're up yelling, screaming, and losing your mind. So for me, I like to think that the fact that I'm even kill helps my team. We played against Brown in the Ivy League tournament a couple of years ago, and we were down by, I think, um, something like 6 points with 22 seconds to go in the game. We came back and won it, and we ended up winning on an assisted basket with 6 seconds to go in the game. We had the ball side OB because they fouled us on purpose because we wasn't in the bonus, and we ended up getting a layup from Matt Noling, a little floater. And I didn't have any timeouts. I couldn't have time to draw up a screwed up play. My guys just made a play together, and we won the game. And there was no panic. Is the point I'm trying to make. They were even kill, and they just made the right play. They took what the defense gave them. And I think that that is kind of what I'm trying to preach to my guys about from my actions. So, practice is different. I'll spike in practice a little bit more than I will in the game. But for the most part, I'm trying to teach guys. And a lot of my teaching is through sarcasm. I'm not a yeller, I'm not a screamer. I don't curse at players. I'll be more sarcastic than anything else. Oh, Troy doesn't want to rebound today. We don't have to rebound. Oh, okay. I get it today. Troy wants to take the day off. Do you want a straw with that pina colada, Troy? Is that what you want to sit on? So I'm more sarcastic than I am anything else.
You talked earlier about your days as assistant coach and not getting a lot of who were your biggest mentors and influences to your coaching style?
Well, Doc Sowers was who I played for and who I started with. But my biggest mentor in my life has been my dad. And not he's not he gave me life lessons as a coach that are just through basketball. A lot of things you learn. I learned from my dad that are part of who I am, and it's helped me coach and it's helped my demeanor. And I think that's been the biggest influence on my life is from him. I worked for Doc Sowers, I worked for Dick Kuchin, and I worked for Larry Hunter. And I took something from each of them. We all steal from each other as coaches. That's just kind of how it is. But if I look to a mentor, as someone I look up to, it's my dad.
What's what's the what's the last thing you remember stealing from somebody that you've implemented right now?
Oh, how about this one? We beat UConn, and I can't remember who I stole it from. We're beating UConn the whole game. It's 2015. We're at their Grant Gamble, and they had just won a national championship the year before, and we're giving them the business. And now the officials, jump in the game and they even it out a little bit. And so now we're down by two with like 5 seconds to go, and we got the ball out of bounds of our basket. And there was an out of bounds play, out of bounds under that I saw, which went for a lob. And that was the first option was a lob, but we ended up getting a three in the corner that won the game. So it was one of those things that like I don't know where I saw it. I was watching someone play. I think it might have been Wagner. I can't remember for sure, but it was a great play and it worked real well for us.
Great. Tom?
Coach, this is a question from the crowd. Starters, bench players, top eight. How do you pick who starts? I mean, if it's close, how do you determine who's six, seven, eight? How does that work?
Yeah, for me, cream normally rises. Like we stat every practice. And so I know who's turning the ball over. I know who's got the most assists on the team. I know who's rebounding the most. So those things are taken into consideration. But for the most part, my eyes tell me everything I need to see. But you really sometimes you want to play guys that are just the better fit. Like, Troy might be better than Tom, but the team plays better with Tom than Troy. So again, it depends on what we need and what we're looking for. Here's a great example. I had a player that point guard for us last year, and he was a bench player. And our starting point guard was phenomenal, a really good player. And when I was asking from this bench player, I needed you to be more of a facilitator offensively. Well, his best practices were those where he was bully balling and scoring. I didn't need that. So, ergo, he didn't play. So it's one of those things that sometimes you got to figure out what you need and who's going to give you what you need. And I think that that's kind of how I go about figuring out who my starting lineup is and who are the guys that are going to back them up. And here's, I'll tell you one other thing that we do. So we just did it the other day before our first practice. I have a preseason test and I asked the guys, well, who should be in the starting lineup who should be the next five. If you were, in a fight for your life, which teammate would you want on your side? Who's the weakest link on the team? What are your goals for the season? So I asked them all those kind of questions, but I really take note of who they think should start and where guys put themselves. And that's always an interesting exercise for me to understand who we are. And for that guy, he thinks he should be starting. Well, listen, none of your teammates pick you in the starting lineup. Why should I? Not one guy pick you in the starting lineup but you. And if you want to see this stuff, I'll show it to you.
Next question from the crowd is scouting. What do you give them? How much do you give them? What's the most important things that you give them for each game?
All right. So for me, the most important thing is how teams are going to guard a ball screen. We're a ball screen motion team. So how you're going to guard our ball screens is going to be what dictates what we do offensively. So if you're a hard hedge team, well, you know what? We're going to work on our options off the hard hedge. If you're a switching team, we're going to work on our options off the switch. If you're going to ice, we're going to work on those options. So that's something that we work on for our offense because that's the most important thing. And then secondary, there's how you're going to defend the post. So you doubling the post, you doubling from the top side, back side, bigs, big on big. Well, how are you going to double us? So I need to know those two things when I'm scouting you. And then for us, for your offense, we're going to take 3 plays and 3 plays only. And we're going to go over those 3 plays and try to make sure that our guys understand those 3 plays. We're going to go 3 out of bounds plays, and that's all we're going to do, 3 out of bounds plays. Now, we might show more on film, but I want to show the 3 plays that I think are going to give us the most trouble. And then and also which of those plays your best players are involved in, how they're trying to get their best player to score. So we want to try to take some of that stuff away, but we don't give them a lot that way. They get a quickie scout, which is personnel with their averages and their points, and then we give them the 3 plays that we go over, and that's it. I get a book of stuff from my assistants with everything that they do, so I could take a look at it.
Question that just came in is this. It is interesting. Almost probably 4 or 5 of the coaches that have spoken at this thing talk about the loudest teams win. The teams that talk the most win. So the question is, what are some of you mentioned one about your defensive slide stuff that you did today, but what are some other drills that help build your communication on a basis for training,
Yeah.
daily training?
Every drill is, because if we're playing shell, you got to close out and yell ball with 2 hands high. If you're in shell, you got to talk about stunning a gap. You got to talk about being help. You got to talk about switching. So you get an opportunity to talk on every single possession that you have. And if the gym's not loud, if we can hear ourselves think, well, then it's not going to be the level in which we're going to have a chance to win. Because if you go to Allen Fieldhouse, you can hardly hear yourself think, much less hear your own voice. So it's important that we're working on communicating in every single drill that we do. So that's the way we handle it. And if it's not, I blow the whistle, bring the guys in. Hey guys, we gotta talk more here. This isn't good. This isn't good enough. This isn't going to help us win the league. This isn't going to help us, get to the level that we want to get to. And we all want the same thing, right? We all want to be successful. So there's one way to do it, and it's what we've mapped out. And we get our seniors to buy into that, and our leaders to buy into it, and they help us get the other guys going.
Sets, counters, reads, set plays, actions. When you call them, are you giving it, is it words? Is it signals? How do you call? And like you're just talking about when you're at Connecticut or you're at Purdue or you're at Kansas, how do you get your point guard if it is in the half court? How do you get him to run what you want him to run?
Well, what's great, Tom, here is that your point guard, and we should be mano a mano. We should be the same. So I tell my point guards that we're going to be really good when I'm thinking of a play and my old butt gets off the bench to call it and you've already started running it. That's when we know we're in good shape. We have a few hand signals that we use for certain plays that we get to. There's motion that we run a lot to try to get stuff out of motion, and we have motion starters to motion, and we do have some set plays. But for the most part, It's just the motion stuff that we have and entries into motion, and they're going to be either hand signal. And we don't play in a lot of those arenas where you can't hear yourself think. Most guys can always hear me on the floor, and I can normally get their attention to run, and it's normally verbal.
I would say one thing, your arena, your gym, whatever you want to call it, is one of the most unique, best atmospheres in all of college basketball. Ed Janka ran a clinic there a million years ago. Were you at Yale then when he was there?
I was there. Yeah, Thad Matta came and spoke.
Yeah.
Yes.
Larry Brown.
Larry Brown as well. Yes, sir. Yeah.
Great place. I mean this. I am going to come there in the next couple of years, maybe hopefully this year with our daughter being in Boston to come and watch you guys play because I love how you coach. I love how you teach. I love how you correct, share, all that stuff. And we'd love to come out and do an NABC open practice, which we've talked about. So I would just say again, thanks for being a friend. Thanks for doing this, especially when your Yankees are ahead by 2 runs now. And isn't that how it is going?
Is it? Are they?
He's jerking your chain.
Oh, you're killing me right now.
Sorry about that. I was just wishful
Oh,
thinking.
oh,
Troy, anything
yeah, you know
I
what?
do-
You know what? Listen. You're going to get tackled the next time I see you.
I would say this.
But,
Thanks for being on the board of directors. Having a coach like yourself and also involved with the Coaches versus Cancer is huge. So thanks for that. Troy, you got anything before we let Coach go?
Just want to
Watch the Yankees.
thank you for everything you do. You're always the best. Appreciate you.
you guys are great. And listen, Tom, I'm not going to forget that because you have me going. I thought they came back and won the game. Again, you're going to get tackled. Watch out. If I'm in the vicinity, watch your back. All right, brother.
I'll walk the other direction, but I am going to call you about the NABC open practice. All right.
Sounds good.
Coach, thanks a ton, and we greatly appreciate your time and efforts. Great job.
You guys have a great night.